Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back. So in today's episode, we're going to be working on some artwork for a project that I'm doing called Castle Dracula. And just really quickly, so I can get into what it is, I just want to talk about what we're going to be seeing. I've come up with the final design for the character. For those of you that are following the live streams that I'm doing, you guys have probably heard or know about this character. But for those of you that don't follow that stuff, that's cool. It's kind of like what I wanted to talk about briefly about this. This will be a mini comic that's hopefully launching in October, and you guys will see some more of that stuff as we keep going. But so, like I said, Castle Dracula. It's a comic based on the video game Castlevania, and when I say based on, it's loosely themed. But what Castle Dracula is about is a story about a castle hunter who wants to obtain a kick-ass castle in Transylvania. It just so happens to be the home of Count Dracula. So it's a different bit of a play than the Castlevania theme. But go to my website, jonathanrector.com. Check down. There is a link. I believe it's the first actual article on my website, but I'll leave a link in the underbar as well. Check that out. I have an article just kind of talking about this project, the reason for it, and where I got the inspiration for the theme of this, of doing like a video game but in a mini comic style, and sort of like what the pros and cons I suppose are. Mostly they're just pros. But anyway, so you saw me just doing a bunch of thumbnails, and what I was trying to do there is I was just trying to figure out the posing, the character, something to give me some idea of where to go. Ultimately what I ended up deciding was, as I was drawing him, a lot of the posing was just I didn't feel like it was anything unique. I guess it was just kind of like a pose with the cool kind of whip action going around. And what I decided midway through, and this is sped up quite a bit, so you guys perhaps you didn't really see it. You may want to rewind if you're interested, and just go back to see those thumbnails as I was doing them. But I wanted him to be, the whole idea of him is think of like a box. A lot of the shapes you'll see as we go, I want him to be very squared. I'm trying to push shape with the designs in this mini comic. And everything about him needs to be boxy except the whip. The problem is he needs to also seem like he's vicious, like I like the idea in my head of a whip, just very small motions, like spreading your arms apart or something, but the whip is just going absolutely crazy, like it's smacking like 6 times every time he flicks his arm, and there's so much action and life in it. So I wanted to make him feel more vicious, more like he's on an offensive here. So this pose, it started to, obviously I like it, so I decided to push it a little bit further. The face here, as we're going, not really feeling it. You'll see me messing around with the skull, the underlining, and all that good stuff, and eventually we get to something. Eventually he does end up coming to me as this goes on. And just go over real quick the workflow of, I guess, what I'm doing here. This is Manga Studio 5, and I've made a custom brush playing with some texture just to give it a little bit more of a chalky feel. And this is heavily inspired on the Dave Raposa tutorial that I posted about, I don't know now, it's probably been a month if you guys are following me on Facebook. A lot of people have been getting into it. It is very similar to the workflow that I had been doing. However, what's really cool about this is it's just mostly pencil. There's no ink at all. There's no real shadow work, and the idea behind that is you let the color do the shadow. You let, even the rendering is very, very limited. You see me using very chunky square shapes, and that's what I would want to use in this. It lets me be quicker. It lets me hammer out something faster, and it plays more into the whole reason of doing this, which again is talked about in that article. So I'll be using the pencil work here, as you can see. This is almost the exact same as if I was just using inking in Manga Studio, like a pen. And all I'm going to do, I want this printed, obviously, and it's just black and white. I won't be doing any color on it. There'll possibly be color on the cover. However, since it's just black and white, you'll see what we're going to do. We're just going to start throwing in some shades of gray, and then adding a multiply layer with a lighter shade of gray just to add that extra shadow. There's really no highlights. The only highlights I do add towards the end are adding the speed lines to the actual whip. And we'll get to that as we're going. You guys might notice too, underneath there is, I've added something for Patreon. And I don't want to. I will do a video later on that just to let people know about it a little bit more. But I've had a few people asking about it. I finally looked into it and tried to understand exactly what it is. So if you guys are interested, you can head on over to patreon.com. It just helps support what I'm doing here. And like I keep saying, it helps me get closer to my dreams of doing independent comic book work. So anything you guys wanted to donate, I highly appreciate it. Nothing is going to be behind a paywall. I have talked about that before. Everything I'm doing here, I want to continue to do, and more of it. So expect more videos coming out soon. I'm just starting to get into a flow of getting some of the client work out of the way. So now the client work that I can show is mostly the Worlds in Peril. I'll be getting heavily into that, which is actual comic book work plus pinup work. And then other than that, it'll just be this here. It'll be Castle Dracula, and then once this is done, we're going to be moving into Jessup King. You guys can head over to jessupking.com. I have uploaded the original 7-page mini-comic of his origins of where Jessup King came from. But the actual comic is going to look much different. You guys have seen some of the pinups on there. And if you guys aren't following me on Facebook or Twitter, and you guys are on that, check me out on there as well. I'm posting a lot of updates over there, and you guys might be interested in that. I wanted to talk briefly on this quick fill technique that I've used in Photoshop, and I'm using it in Manga Studio as well, where what you're doing is you just make like a shape. Think of like a square. You just highlight that square, like you just draw a line that would be a square. And then you grab your magic wand tool, you select just inside that layer. You don't want to select everything, just the contents of that layer. So you select that and you expand your selection maybe, I don't know, 1 to 3 pixels, and then you just fill it. What it does is it makes doing this stage here, which essentially would be flats if you were coloring. It's the exact same thing as grayscale, gray tone, is doing the flats. It's the most laborious part of the entire process. It's pretty mindless, but you know, you can just relax, turn on some music, and just kind of fill in this stuff. But once this is done, and you try not to rush it because you need your colors to be where they're supposed to be. Once this is done and you add, as you'll see, a multiply layer and just start putting in the shadowing, that's where you can start to have, that's where at least I have a lot of fun, where you're just trying to think of where the light source is and trying to make some cool cast shadows and just shapes and just trying to make the piece pop, you know, make that arm that's in the foreground like look like it's casting shadows behind it, so there's shape behind it. But this project anyway, I'm actually really excited about it. I'm changing, there's actually a lot. It might not look like it, but there's a lot of things in this that are new to my comic workflow. Most client work that I do doesn't look like this, but I would like it too. And if you guys have been following this channel for years, you've heard me talk multiple times of trying to grow the balls to have a more, I don't want to say animated or cartoon style, but simple style, meaning the volume of the characters, the shape is still there, the shadowing is still there, and the rendering is here and there. I really want to move away from just heavily rendered things. It just takes so much time, and honestly, it doesn't necessarily add a lot. It looks good, and this is all personal taste and opinion, right? But as somebody that would rather tell a lot of stories, I'm trying to get and find a style that lends itself to quick turnarounds, we'll say. Now, that's not to say that other projects won't come along, right? Because I love to render it. I like to sit down and just noodle it out there and render a form, get some render lines in there. That's all great. But there's something about this kind of style here where it just, as you can see here, just chunky shapes. It still does the exact same thing, but it's a different feel. And I know some people would look at this and they might not like it. And then there's other people that will look at it and they think that, like, this is the style that they like. But that's the beauty of being an artist, right? Is continual evolution of your art and trying to get better and clearer, especially if you're doing comics, right? Essentially, I would assume you want to have the clearest storytelling possible. But we're getting closer towards the end of the video, so I just want to say thank you guys once again, everybody that's watching the live streams and stuff. And follow me on jonathanrector.com. You guys can check out all the information, all the cool updates and stuff like that. Follow this. We're going to get new information on that. This is Castle Dracula. So until the next video, guys, keep reading comics, keep making comics, and I'll see you next time. Bye.